The real holy grail of energy innovation to me is being able to, whatever the mode of energy is, being able to get it as decentralized as possible so it doesn't have to be, dependent on foreign wars and oil market oligarchs and all of the shenanigans of geopolitical, international power.
Our neighbor's choice.
Well, folks, I wanted to do a show, a kind of summary, kind of a look back at the exciting Tesla Tech conference that we attended this summer. And we did so in August, excited in Albuquerque, New Mexico, excited about the extraordinary technology that was on display from the inventors, the scientists, the engineers. There's about 28 speakers and many other PhDs and inventors, self-taught healers, and all kinds of interesting niches in this Tesla Tech conference. And I was excited to be there. I told you guys I was going to be going there. We had kind of let you guys know early on that Dr. Yu was going to be one of the keynote speakers alongside the actor Terrence Howard. And it was very well received. But I thought, instead of just me giving you a monologue of my take on it, I'd like to introduce someone that I got to know during the course of the Tesla Tech conference. I thought he was a standout guy that I got to meet. He's actually one of the first people I met when I arrived at the conference, and I was very impressed by his versatility of skills and his eagerness to help out with anybody, with any need. I mean, he certainly has a servant's heart, and I think that's the kind of thing that we need more of in our leaders if we're going to actually, get our culture in the right way. So I wanted to introduce the CEO and founder of Advanced Shelter Systems. It's known as Shiftpod, their product, shiftpod.com. Christian Weber. How you doing, Christian?
Yeah, doing very well, sir. How are you doing today?
Doing great. It's been a little bit since we met there at the Tesla Tech conference, and I know you were busy at another big deal, a big conference that everybody talks about, and that's Burning Man, and we can get to that a little later. But first of all, I just kind of wanted to
Yep.
let you introduce yourself. How did you get interested in this Tesla Tech conference, and what's your background in the world of entrepreneurship and technology?
Sure, David. I've done a lot of different things. I've tracked a lot of different technologies. The Tesla Tech thing was always on the radar, and I'd been going to a different conference up in Spokane, Washington, and was really excited to get down there, and this was my first Tesla Tech. And I gotta say, his whole team did a great job organizing that. The speakers, the different variety of technologies that were presented it was mind-bending. It was really, really incredible. They do a great job and really well organized. I was really impressed.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I like this is my second time I've attended. The first
Mhm.
year, just kind of figuring out what it was all about, and then second year, I was excited to have my co-host Dr. Yu there on the Saturday night double feature keynote. Um, and yeah, I thought it was interesting how they, kind of combined this. You feel like you're in the presence of some people doing some really historically important work, and at the same time, it's very family, almost like family oriented, low key, kind of in terms of just it feels like one big family of people who have a general disposition, although there's quite a diversity of thought. There's a general disposition that the current standard of technological innovation is not quite all there is to tell, and that there needs to be more. And I think that's why they've kind of, modeled this conference for many years off of Nikola Tesla. And of course, so many people today, when they think of Tesla, they either think of the car company or they think of, his hidden secret technologies. But I think this conference honors the spirit of what he imbued by kind of looking for the next Teslas around the corner that could be in our own generation.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I tell you, Dr. Yu's presentation and Terrence Howard's presentations were, I mean, I was sitting there thinking, wow, this could really be a day that goes down in history, where some really new concepts have been presented, and those concepts could change physics as we know it. It was pretty incredible. And I would have to expand on that. Even the speaker right before Dr. Yu, I'm drawing a blank on his name, but the material he presented
Yeah.
on, yeah, it was incredible.
Bob Greenyer, yeah,
Right,
Bob Greenyer, yeah, and
right.
he's a long. I've had him on the show. He's quite a character. He's charismatic, and he really has been documenting. He's with the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project. With Martin Fleischmann, for those who are not familiar, Stanley Pons and Martin Fleischmann with a chemical scientist that really kicked off this notion that there could be such a thing as so-called room temperature or cold fusion back in 1989, and were summarily, really blackballed and witch hunted for daring to just do science in a way that rocked the standard dogma of what nuclear energy was supposed to be all about. And Bob has faithfully tried to explore every nook and cranny of that phenomenon, and I think he's done a good job of bringing it all together. And I hope that something can come to market. I mean, that's something that dominates conversations in a place like Tesla Tech, and it certainly did so this year, which is just this ever elusive, just around the corner, cold fusion. It's got a variety of different,
LENR, yeah.
yeah, LENR, low energy nuclear reaction, is what some refer to it as. Bob has a new word for it. I can't recall what the term was he had thrown out there, but he said it was more
Yeah.
accurate. But what was your overall take about the state of LENR research? I know that's something that you have an interest in as well, that you've always been watching that space. Why do you think it hasn't come to market? I mean, there's some people take conspiratorial thoughts that, oh, wow, government's going to suppress this. And that might, I don't know, look, they suppressed ivermectin, I mean, why would they
Right,
not
right.
suppress something else that challenges their crony capitalists and their buddies? What's
Yeah.
your overall assessment of that space?
Well, first I have to say Bob's uh, moving at a speed which I've never seen before. The way he speaks and the clarity and the recall of information and data is mind-bending. I mean, he really, I was I was really impressed with him and how much information and knowledge he retains and how quickly he can recall it and fold it into a presentation or conversation. It was really incredible before his presentation to have the little break off groups and whatever that these discussions that you fall into at this conference. And it's incredible how much information he has and how quickly he can convey it and how clearly he can convey it. It's really it was really incredible. As far as the space goes, for us, I worked with a small team and we did some LENR experimentation based on the guy in Italy and what he was doing. And we found that the potential exposure to radiation was too high, and we got into it not realizing the possibility of exposure. And we finally got the instrumentation, we measured it, and we were put off by it. And the team basically said we can't do this until we have a larger budget to figure out this whole radiation thing, the gamma rays. And then it really folded down to if we're trying to make a unit for residential use, how what agency is that going to fall under? What, potential risk and exposure, and is that something that's viable for a residential use type product. And we decided that we didn't have the budget for it, and the potential regulatory problems would probably keep us out of the market. So
Yeah.
we folded it up and moved on. And I think that that's possibly why a lot of these smaller companies are having problems with it and have walked away from it. But I think there are also companies out there, universities and larger companies that could probably figure out that issue and push it through if they saw the value. Beyond that, I don't know why it's stuck in the mud.
Yeah. Do you think that, LENR or this type of room temperature nuclear technology, do you think that's going to be a key element of the future of energy? Or do you think there's other things that you actually find more promising, practically speaking, to be able to bring to market?
Well, excuse me. I think it could be. Yeah. I mean, we've got a Tesla turbine that we built that could take the LENR, the energy generated by an LENR, and power, your house plus, and it be in a very small package. But again, the regulatory issues would probably end up getting in the way and being a huge hurdle. Um, some of the other technologies that are out there that are coming with um, reactors, um, same issues, but it seems like the majority of the research is kind of going down that road rather than LENR.
Right. That seems to me to be the real holy grail of energy innovation to me is being able to, whatever the mode of energy is, being able to get it as decentralized as possible so it doesn't have to be, dependent on foreign waters and oil market oligarchs and all of the shenanigans of geopolitical, international power. If we could just discover, good, better than, these wind farms and solar panels, but like reliable, decentralized energy that really does work. It really is a knockout in terms of its ability to take on the basic essentials of energy usage that Americans expect. I
Right.
mean, that's what we're really looking for to change the game culturally, I think. And there's obviously a lot of political pushback for that, but I think that, we can't take no for an answer if there's a way to do these things in a safe, reliable manner. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
people tend to think of the horror stories of their HOA president, and they think of the idea of having a nuclear reactor at the HOA president's hands could be.
Right.
But I mean,
Well,
there's all kinds of things that are dangerous that are in the hands of people. Generators are dangerous, and
right.
gasoline tanks are dangerous, and chemicals that we spray in plants and bugs and stuff are pretty dangerous and very, and they somehow get through the regulatory process. And maybe sometimes they shouldn't have, but
Yeah,
we
I
got them
think
all around us.
we need a reactor that'll burn glyphosate, and
Yeah,
then we'll be fine.
there you go. You're gonna have to have some use for it after Bobby's done with what he's doing over there.
There you go.
What were some of the other highlights that come to mind, and moments, or whether it's a presentation or something in the exhibition hall, or just somebody you met that you really thought, wow, that was interesting.
Well, there was a really good presentation on HHO and the Brown's gas.
Yeah,
That was really eye-opening, and how the new water, the whole concept of new water, that was a new one for me, and how it takes on the taste of orange juice in the fridge or the mineralization. That was very interesting, and I think there's a really good path for more research on that topic. And then, really the last three presenters kind of overshadowed a lot of it. But one of the things that I really appreciated and enjoy at this conference is the sidebars.
Yeah.
Um, every day you see, 8 or 10 people in a conversation, you can just go sit in on it and listen to some of the most interesting minds having a discussion about topics that are really, really on the cutting edge.
Yeah. That hydrogen enriched water. Is that what you meant with the H? What does that stand for? HHO, you said? Do you know that?
Yeah, well, it's the Brown's gas,
Yeah.
and it's simply taking, electricity and breaking water up into hydrogen and oxygen, and then uh, using it for either, inhalation and medical use. I guess I shouldn't say medical use because it's not certified for medical
Yeah.
use. Using it along those lines or using it as a torch. Um, I've used it as a heat source to melt precious metals because you don't get any of the carbon contamination in it. It works great. But the part that I wasn't aware of that I learned about was the uh, recombining the hydrogen and oxygen into new water. Air quotes, new water. A lot of people believe that water has memory and takes on a lot of memory and structure from its environment. One of the things that was mentioned where they had a slaughterhouse and they took all the water from the slaughterhouse, filtered it, and fed it back to a group of control group of cattle, and the cattle got all weird and stressed out and sick because of the same stresses in the slaughterhouse or whatever. And versus taking clean water from a river or clean new water or whatever, and the cattle were flourishing, right? So there a lot of different experiments like that to see the difference in water and what memory water might hold. And then the concept of this new water is that it's recombined fresh and it doesn't have that memory. So you can program it uh, the way you want or with different things that you want before you ingest it or whatever. I thought that was very interesting. Again, a lot more research needed, but it'd be a very interesting um, you know, research field,
And
certainly.
it was great to hear from Professor Gerald Pollack. He talked about that fourth phase of water that I think is
Yeah.
related to the topic you're describing, and talking about easy water, which is, I guess, the same as this new water word. He
Hmm.
called it exclusion zone water, and he believes it's a fourth phase of water that has all kinds of fascinating potentials. He's certainly a well-renowned, world-renowned professor and speaker on this topic, and it was great to hear from him as because he was a speaker there as well. He did a great job.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a very nice guy. I had the pleasure of sitting next to him on an airplane back from Spokane to Seattle,
Oh wow.
and you know got to know him a little bit outside of his presentation, and he's a very, very nice guy. The potential with the fourth phase of water for desalinization, I think is huge. It's a huge opportunity there, and I'm very curious to see who snaps that one up and runs with it.
I mean, that's another thing. Water is not quite as sexy as the topic of unlimited energy or 0 point energy or whatever, but you want to talk about another way to reduce the artificial scarcity that kind of holds people back, I think, as a human culture, is water, right? Having
Right.
access to reliable, clean water is still something that is a big deal for much of the world and can be very quickly a big deal for here at home, for folks who
Yeah.
don't have access to good water, and being able to tap in, like you said, using these technological, discoveries to make desalination a much more easier and affordable process would be fascinating.
Right,
You?
right. Are you familiar with the water rig? Have you ever seen one of those
No,
units?
no, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it's a really really cool piece of hardware. You basically put it on your well. If you've got a mineral problem like boron in the water or higher salt content, you put this device in, you put a probe down below your well unit, your pump unit, down the casing and down into the water, and this thing will run on a little solar panel, and it uses high voltage and frequency to basically, as I understand it, I'm not an expert on it, but as I understand it, it forces the minerals to coagulate into larger pieces that drop down to the bottom of the well and out of the water source. So it cleans up all the mineralization in the pump, in the plumbing, all the way out to the field, and gets you better yield on your crops. And it's not a super expensive unit, but it sits over your well and cleans up your water well and all your pipes and plumbing and everything. And there are technologies like that out there. I know of two or three of them that eventually will be tuned to get all the salt out of the water. So I think we're really on the verge of a very cheap desalination system that will work on your crops and eventually for drinking water.
Wow. That's fascinating. That's what that's the kind of the theme of my show has been that the problem we have in our society, most of it boils down to zero sum thinking, feel
Mm.
and zero sum feelings, where you feel like in order for me to get ahead, somebody that I don't like has to take a hit. And that's where that
Right,
draws us into politics and culture wars and tribalism and antisocial behavior patterns where neighbors don't like neighbors, neighbors don't even bother to know their neighbors, and all that starts to rot the culture out, and it creates a kind of me first mentality that doesn't work for the flourishing of society. And I'm of the
right,
belief that the solution for that, besides cultural renaissance in terms of people, making better art and better movies and music and things that inspire people in a positive direction, that art and science both have a critical role to play. And when our science is stagnating, and what I call the house of mirrors of equationism, where establishment physics doesn't seem to ever really touch the things that really make our lives significantly improved in the sense of there's all these nice little iterations that come about, but we've been stagnating for many decades in terms of the physical innovations like transportation, like you said, being able to take salt water and turn it into fresh drinkable water, and being able to solve problems with that around the world easily and cheaply, and scaling it in an easy way, whether it's that or if it's unlimited energy, or energy that's too cheap to meter at least, and things like elemental transmutation, not having to destroy the earth and fight over mineral rights to rare earth elements, and hot zones where we're going to, again, squander trillions of dollars in foreign policy adventures to try to position ourselves in a chess game to get access to rare earth elements. I mean, all these things just seem like the dumb way of approaching these things. And you can't politically solve problems, that are already at their core caused by politics. You have to move outside of that space and create, kind of widen the aperture and allow humans to say, hey, wait a second. I don't have to, hate my neighbor about how we're going to fund, healthcare, because these major diseases that we used to have to require government assistance or expensive health insurance to cover can now be solved for very inexpensively. That's going to change the cultural mindset of our culture. That's going to make people a lot more relieved when they're not
right.
under assault physiologically with chronic disease, or the fear of chronic disease, or the suffering that they experience watching family members go through that.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting you bring up the zero sum game. You know, I went through this metamorphosis in 92. I grew up with the movie, Greed is Good. What was the name of that film? how many yachts can you water ski behind?
Wall Street or
Yeah, one of those. And I always thought, yeah, zero sum game. I've got to win. I've got to, crush the competition and come out ahead and all that stuff. And then I found myself in 92. I came out of a trade show in Vegas called Magic and ended up for funny reasons being stuck in Reno at the airport. We were drinking a little too much the day before and fell asleep in the airport during a layover and woke up and there were no available flights for 3 days. Ended up at a rental car place, got the last car to drive back to Seattle. And we were driving through an area where I'd heard there was this big event called Burning Man. And anyway, long story short, we saw this hippie bus with bikes on the back, and we followed them out to Burning Man, and had no idea what we were getting into. My buddy Gary and I, and we ended up out. And the place it's a gifting economy. It's not really a trade economy. You gift and don't expect to get anything back in return,
wow.
which was kind of a mind opener at the time.
Yeah.
And I came out of it realizing like we live in a world of abundance. There's plenty for everybody, and this whole false sense of scarcity is, it's fake. I think it's manufactured, and we're being manipulated by it. We live in a world of abundance. There's plenty to go around. There's way more of everything than the powers that be want you to know about. And if you work with other people and try and help, then they'll help you, and everything comes back around. And it's kind of the whole karma thing, right?
Yeah.
It's even beyond the whole karma thing. It's like it's absolute abundance. There's plenty to go around. And there's no need to try and crush the other guy to get ahead. It's how can you help them? Then they help you, and then all ships rise on the tide, right?
Yeah. I gotta say that's I mean your name is Christian and I think it lives up you've lived up to the name when I encountered you because I mean I just have to commend you because you had a servant's heart the whole time. I mean I'd see people need a ride here or there and you were just the first to jump and solve someone's problems or help out somebody that was had an issue going on at that conference, and I just thought, that's the kind of guy we need more of those kind of folks in our market economy, in our technological conversations, who are not strutting around and acting like they got something special to hang over everybody's head, but rather it's just, I mean, it just seems like you came from a posture of hey, what can I do to help? What can I just action? And I thought, man, that's a good example of what we should strive to position ourselves in. And I
Yeah,
thought that was
I
pretty
appreciate
cool.
that.
So
Yeah, I appreciate that very much.
yeah, let's talk about Terrence Howard. What did you think of his presentation and your interactions with him?
I really, I'd never followed him. I don't really know what he's doing. I think he was in some Iron Man movie or
Yeah,
something. I'm not really into that whole scene, but getting to listen to him and interact and I was really impressed. I not only with the science that he's presenting and the physics, his take on the physics. Just as a person, I'm really impressed. He and his wife were both fantastic, really, really nice people. Very generous with their time and energy and supporting the community. I was really impressed.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
thought
really
it was.
good people.
I did think it was I felt the energy of a historic moment happening with Dr. Yu and Terrence on stage, and
Absolutely.
I felt that I was just doing a little bit of Q&A with him at the end there on stage, and I could just feel the energy. I was looking at that crowd, and look, it wasn't a big stadium, but it was a good hotel conference size room, and
Yeah.
a lot of the people that were in that room, it had been well past, the schedule had kind of shifted a little bit, and it was well past the scheduled dinner, and it's Saturday night. And I'm sure, a lot of people there with their wives and stuff ready for dinner, and they stayed well past, getting to eat their dinner to answer, to ask, for the chance to ask questions or listen to uh, the Q&A with Dr. Yu and Terrence Howard. And you could just feel it in the air when I said, hey, what if you guys took this on the road and start doing tours? Man, the reaction from the crowd was just electric. And I could just tell, wow, we hit something really special here because, Dr. Yu and Terrence don't agree on everything. There's disagreements, but they don't emphasize that. They look for the common agreements, and they just, presented their theories, and, you can kind of make up your own mind. They're tackling kind of different questions, and
Right.
Terrence is looking more at the geometrical shapes of the universe, and Dr. Yu is kind of addressing the laws and the particles of the universe, and whether we have such a thing as dipolar monocharged particles, which is the standard model of protons and neutrons and electrons, or if everything is a magnet. And the
Right.
simplicity that opens up is astounding, and the opportunity to use it as a roadmap for exploring new technologies is incredible. And I think Terrence has some fascinating applications that he's investigating as well with his theory. So, I mean, it just felt like good old fashioned, like another era of science back when, people like Tesla would do public displays of science, and they'd have an audience in the general city of the time, and they'd come out to see it. And I thought, man, I would love to see that again. So maybe that'll be the beginning of something special.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I tell you, I got goosebumps during the presentations. I get goosebumps thinking about it again. Um, the monopole theory, after seeing that Dr. Yu's presentation, it absolutely doesn't make sense anymore. You,
Exactly.
and I'm scratching my head. Why did that ever make sense to
Yeah,
anyone?
exactly.
Um, the way he presented it really was it was really interesting. I think everybody was leaning forward the whole time, and it explains it very. Dr. Yu, despite the bit of it was a little bit hard to understand him because of the accent
Yeah.
and the sound system, but um, his slides and his whole presentation, it really explained it well, and I found myself thinking, wow, how is this not, this is so obvious. How is it not, how is this already not known and taught? It was mind opening for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's been a fascinating journey for us to explain, and explore this theory
Yeah.
to the general public on talk radio together and podcasts and so forth. And we're excited to see where it goes next. And I think Dr. Yu and Terrence Howard have a unique chemistry together. And I think
Yes.
their different backgrounds, one from NASA, one from Hollywood, makes for a really just a kind of lightning in a bottle chemistry that I think could really excite the general public to get excited about big questions in science again, and not feel
Yeah.
like they're left out to sit out and let the establishment tell them what to think, and not ask certain questions. So I feel like we're on the beginning of something really special if we keep going and pushing forward with what we started there. So I'm glad that you were there to be a part of it. I think it's going to be something we'll look back at. Remember when this whole thing started? And it and
Right.
it, and it it started first technically with Patrick Bet David's podcast when Dr. Yu and Terrence met, but then it kind of crystallized into the first interaction with them in person together in front of a live audience filled with scientists and engineers who could really ask them the pertinent questions with an open mind. So I'm
Right.
thrilled with what can happen next. I did want to ask you about you had a product, the Shiftpod, which we mentioned at the beginning of the show, which is this interesting technological. It looks kind of futuristic when you go to the website. The different tents and dwellings that you've created and the gear that goes along with it. And I know that after TeslaTech, you just geared up and went straight into Burning Man. And I saw videos online, viral videos of these incredible storms. And sure enough, I saw the same shift pod that I saw at TeslaTech that you were showing. They were all lined up during those storms, and they were holding down pretty good, it looked like. So tell us about, the shift pod and how it kind of came to be with Burning Man and how you guys weathered the storms. What happened over there?
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. I just want to back up 1 minute and go back to talk to you and Terrence Howard. I'd like to say I absolutely agree with you. It's a great matchup. They're a great pair. I think there's a lot to unpack with them in the future and doing different shows. Um, the one thing that you said that stood out, I wish that Terrence Howard would not be looked at as being from Hollywood. I don't think his ideas are from Hollywood,
Right,
and it's almost a detriment to think of him that way. I think he's got a lot more to offer than just some actor guy from Hollywood. You know what I
right,
mean?
right. Well
I
said.
think,
Yeah,
yeah, I think we need to look at him as a brilliant mind with brilliant ideas. And oh, by the way, he happens to have something going on in Hollywood. That's pigeonholing him as an actor is really I think what's the word I'm looking for? It's not giving him enough credit, you know?
right.
I think he's
Yeah,
got a lot more going on than just some guy from Hollywood. I just wanted to put that out there.
yeah, for
Uh, as
sure.
far as yeah, as far as Burning Man goes, it was an absolutely incredible year. This year we launched a new product called the Shiftpod X, which is for 10 years. We've been in business for 10 years. Huge improvements, aircraft aluminum ferrules, carbon fiber and fiberglass spars, really taking all the lessons that we've learned over 10 years and putting into this one product. And for us out there, I got out there during build week. I caught all the wind storms. I think they hit 55 miles an hour, wind, dust, and rain. And our product really performed incredibly well. We probably had, I think in total, there's probably close to 30,000 units out there.
Yeah,
And if you tie them down right, they're absolutely rock solid up to 60 miles an hour from my own experience. And yeah, they performed really well. The storms, you get kind of landlocked out there, or you got to shelter in place. So, we ended up staying in camp, staying in our shift pods way more than we wanted to. It's really difficult when it's blowing that kind of wind and dust out there because the art projects get delayed. Everybody's struggling to rebuild their camps after they've built them once. It's really exhausting. But everybody was in good spirits and had a lot of fun. There's some weird stuff that happened after, we learned about after we got home this year. But
what
all in
happened?
all,
Was it something? What happened there? I didn't hear about that.
there was some Russian guy that was murdered, apparently. They found him in a pool of blood in his camp.
Wow,
And, that I don't think that's ever happened. I mean, it's the fourth largest city in Nevada for 2 weeks.
wow.
So you've got to expect, some kind of, sometimes there's bad stuff that happens, but I don't think there's ever been a murder out there. And they're investigating it now, trying to figure out what happened. But yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, it seems like Burning Man. I don't know much about the whole thing, just from what I've heard from folks like you, but it seems like it's taken on a lot of negative media coverage over the last few years. It went from this it got a lot of good press, and now it seems like it gets a lot of negative press. Have you noticed
Yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And a lot of the comments that we've read are really negative, about billionaires aren't people and everybody deserves what they get out there and, they should all die and that kind of stuff, which is pretty crazy. I mean, I get it's a counterculture event. There are a lot of preconceived ideas about what it is, a drug-fueled orgy and this and that. And I can understand a lot of people get upset about that. For us, it is what you make it. I mean, it's like I said, it's the fourth largest city in Nevada for that period of time, and it's really, for me, it's more about the artwork and the creativity and how do you solve problems in one of the harshest environments in the world. Um, a lot of people take drugs, a lot of people do weird things, the orgy dome and all that stuff. But I don't go there.
Yeah.
And it doesn't affect me. Just
Does
like I
it
don't
does
go to
it tend
strip
to
clubs
take
and
on like just like a city, different neighborhoods have like if you go down there, that's the crazy town.
absolutely.
If you go here, it's the nerds that are peaceful. If you go over there, it's this. Is it like that?
Yeah, to a certain extent. I mean, there are different neighborhoods with different types of music and different vibes. There are probably more than 500 different large scale art pieces out in the middle of it.
Yeah.
From giant semi trucks welded together in an S shape that you can go climb on. That was one year. Huge wooden art pieces that are 1,000, 2,000 people can participate with that art piece at one time, and then at the end it's burnt down. There's a temple where you can go and leave messages for your loved ones that have passed, and then it burns on Sunday night. It's pretty amazing, and like I said, it is what you make it. I mean, you can go sober and have a great time. You can listen to all sorts of music, from live music to symphonies to opera, to techno and drum and bass, and anything you want. It's out there. It's a giant city, built on the concept of art and radical self-reliance and radical expression. So you get all kinds of things out there.
What do you think it is about the folks that go to Burning Man? What's the common denominator between people seeking out some? What are they seeking there, and what are they seeking at Tesla Tech? What's the overlap there?
That's interesting. I think at Tesla Tech, it's you know built based on science and um, exploring different ideas related to science and healing. Burning Man's more about art and radical self-expression, and people going out to fly their freak flag and not be judged for what they're doing. Um, for me, I think the Tesla Tech is about the science, and Burning Man is about art and solving problems and kind of cracking that creative side open.
Yeah, I think they're both like symptoms of a society that wants a little bit of something more than what they get in normal society. You know what I mean? Uh,
Yeah.
so much of our society has, like, you look at architecture, modern architecture today doesn't look very nice compared to a lot of other eras. And let's just put it that way. It's like
Sure.
glass buildings and drab, Starbucks shapes, and the apartment complexes look like Starbucks, and the McDonald's look like the same little cube thing. And
Homogenization, right?
yeah, and there's not that whimsy, there's not that enchantment, like you look back at Art Deco and some of those other eras that were just, a lot more whimsical and
Sure.
full of texture and good materials. And now everything's kind of like the same kind of, fabricated materials. And then you look at like, what we're allowed to talk about science wise, and it's always like Neil deGrasse Tyson and Bill Nye the Science Guy, which, hey, if you like that, that's fine. But the limit that, the frame of allowable discussion within those types of folks who represent the science is very limited. Michio Kaku, great
Right.
smart guys, but you don't have much limited. You have a very limited frame of what you're allowed to kind of explore in those types of figureheads that get promoted by the media. So your science is limited. Your art architecture feels limited. I think people just want more. They want extraordinary
Yeah,
technology.
absolutely.
They want extraordinary self-expression and art. So
Yeah.
they're
Turn
seeking
the
these
TV off
places.
and start going to some conferences.
Uh, Well, hey, I really appreciate you coming on and spare the moment kind of invite, and I think you've given us more than a few nuggets to chew on and think about for food for thought. And again, I appreciate getting to know you in the Tesla Tech conference, and I'm looking forward to seeing what interesting things come out for healing and engineering and technology as a result of these meetings that we've had this summer.
Absolutely. Well, David, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it and look forward to the next time.
Yeah, and if you want to check out Shiftpod, shiftpod.com is the website, and it's really interesting. It's not your ordinary tent in the sense of what you expect when you see it, but it's got quite an interesting. It's pretty quick. I've seen when you were on stage, you threw that up pretty quick. That was not a long process to get that thing ready to go, huh?
Yeah, 10 to 15 seconds typically to set it up and pop it open,
Yeah, that's
depending
that's
on
that's
time.
quicker than your popcorn, right? And when you're camping out, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, you take care, and thanks for coming on.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. And for those who want to give us feedback about questions about some of the things we've talked about today, uh, or comments about some technology ideas or healing ideas or art, you can always email us hello@aneighborschoice.com. I'm David Gornoski. Godspeed.
So